A couple of years ago, I visited a rehabilitation center for substance abusers. I was there to look at some software that they were using to help the women that lived there to practice for their GEDs. And while I was there, I met a woman named Amber. She was 34 years old. She had been a substance abuser for 20 years. She had 2 young daughters who were there with her because she was also learning parenting skills. What she told me was that in working with the software, she had learned that she was smart. No one had ever told her that she was smart. She also discovered that she liked to learn. And not only did she want a GED, but now she wanted to go on and get her bachelor's degree in business so she could return home and help with the family business. Her mother had never been one to say, "Get up, you need to go to school." So she had dropped out of high school. But she told me that, understanding the importance of education, that her 2 daughters would not miss a day of school unless they were sick. Another woman, I'll call her Sharon, from southern Arkansas, a little town. In her 12th grade year, her mother told her, "You're about to graduate, so start looking for that job, because as soon as you graduate, I need you to help with the income for the family. And don't think about college. Just don't even think about that. But if you do, you're on your own. If you go to college, you're on your own." Fortunately for this young woman, she had a teacher who believed in her and encouraged her and helped her to find a scholarship. She went to college. She has now written several books, and she's a very successful businesswoman. Another story, a colleague of mine who is a social worker held a focus group in some subsidized housing here in Little Rock with the young women that were living there. What she learned was that the typical woman in her focus group was 23 years old, she had 3 children, and she had taken some college. All of the women in the focus group realized the importance of education. They knew they had to better themselves to help their children, but they lacked the systems that many of us enjoy. They didn't have the peer or the family systems to help with child care. They didn't have reliable transportation, and they didn't have the funds that are needed sometimes to keep the household going. I've been in nonprofit work for, let's say, 20 years. And I can say that half of that has been focused on working with women and girls around education, encouraging them in their studies, in making sure they have what they need to stay in school, but also doing a lot of research and report writing on the status of women in Arkansas. And it's amazing to me that almost every month I have somebody ask me, "Is your work relevant? Do we really need to be looking at women's issues today? Isn't the playing field level? Education is free. Don't all women have access to education? Why do we need to worry about whether this young woman stays in school or not?" Well, this question bugs me. Is it relevant? So I'm going to ask you, what would you need to know to answer those questions? And what do you know right now that could help you answer that question? I'm going to use a technique, and I ask permission, that our Little Rock Philip Martin uses in some of his editorials, using an "I know that." And I want to share some things that I have learned through my research with the Women's Foundation of Arkansas. We'll start with one that probably all of us know. I know that women make up 51% of the population of Arkansas. I know that the poverty rate for women in Arkansas is the 7th highest in the U.S. 20% of Arkansas women live in poverty. If you're African American, it's 30%. If you're Hispanic, it's 31%. I know that the poverty rate for female-headed families is 48%, female-headed families with children. For female-headed families with children under 5, that rate is 58%. 61% of poor children in Arkansas live in female-headed households. I know that Arkansas ranks above the national average with 28% of its families headed by single women. Two factors in that are that women in Arkansas have the 5th highest divorce rate, and we are tied for 7th in the number of births to unmarried women. I know that Arkansas ranks 1st in the number of teen births for girls ages 18 and 19. I know that 50% of Arkansas teens are sexually active, and they have the 3rd lowest use of protection of any state in the U.S. Arkansas is one of 14 states that doesn't require sex or sexually transmitted infection, HIV, education in the schools. I know that almost 20% of infants born to Arkansas teens are not their first. I know that 38% of high school girls who get pregnant before age 18 will not complete high school. I know that 2% of teen mothers will not complete college by the age of 30. I know that nearly 1/3 of daughters born to teen moms will be teen mothers themselves. I know that a mother's education level is linked to her children's health outcomes, their educational success, and their economic well-being. I know, and this one has a year, in 2012, 53% of children of mothers who were high school dropouts were living in poverty, compared to 4% of children whose mothers had a college degree. I know that 40% of children whose mothers didn't complete high school did not complete high school on time. I know that low levels of educational attainment negatively impact a woman's ability to have quality education. And I know that 1 in 5 women in Arkansas do not complete high school. On an average, I know that a high school graduate will make $5,000 more per year than a high school dropout. And I know that 60% of all new jobs in the next decade are going to require a college education. I know that 56% of incoming freshmen in Arkansas schools are women. I know that 19% of Arkansas women hold a bachelor's degree. I know that median wages are positively correlated with your educational level, both for men and women. And at every degree level, women earn significantly less than men. And what this means is that women have to overachieve educationally in order to enter the workforce and close that overall wage gap. I know that an aptitude for science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, is going to be vital as we go forward. And in looking at the state, there is a preparedness gap, 15 points, favoring men over women in math. There's a 17-point preparedness gap in men, favoring men in science. I know that women in STEM jobs earn 33% more than women in non-STEM jobs. And I know that women make up 47% of the workforce, and half of these women work at or below the minimum wage. I know that working women in Arkansas receive on average 82% compared to $1 for comparable work. And we see this wage gap across all the professions, even the ones that are considered traditionally female. I know that only 20% of Arkansas women earn over $50,000 a year. And that brings us back to, I know that women in Arkansas, the poverty rate is 20%. If you're African American woman, 30%. If you're Hispanic, 31%. I know that the poverty rate for Arkansas women is the 7th highest in the nation. And I know that a focus on education and economic lives of our women is relevant, because if we can make improvements in their lives, we have the potential to impact their children's lives, which will help with the economic success and their educational success as adults. And with this focus, we can break the cycle of poverty. As I mentioned earlier, this was sort of a daunting task to me to speak for the women of Arkansas. And so, to help me with that, I reached out via Facebook and I asked women to tell me what they would like to say, what do they know, and if they were given this platform. And I asked them to start their sentence with, "I know that." So I want to share a few with you of what women have said, if they could have this spot. I know that working together, women can improve the status of women in Arkansas. I know that my value is immeasurable. I know that we need the men of Arkansas to support women's advancement. I know that each human is gifted with differences in talent, vision, skill, and interest, so that we as a global society can add value to the earth. But that is only possible if we value each other for our commonalities and our differences, no matter race, creed, color, or gender. I know that women matter. I know that in looking back through history, women are magnificent human beings. In their hearts, they are the caretakers, the nurturers, the peacemakers. They are the foundation of families, enterprises, and countries. They are equal contributors in life. There is no plausible reason for them being treated without respect and equality. I know that women are awesome. I know that it is my duty to myself to step up and ask for my equal share in this world. I know the effects that society have played on females' mindset. I know that I must keep the insecure voices at bay and help other women do the same. I know it takes all of us to support each and every one of us. I know much progress has been made toward more recognition for the value women bring to the dining table and to the conference table, and there is much to celebrate. However, until there is parity in opportunity and comparative pay for comparative work, there are still miles to go before we sleep. Miles to go before we sleep. I know that women today are really consumed by trying to look just so, sound just so, lean in at the right angle. It's all about how we seem and not what we can do. I know that women do the work, raise the children, support their husbands, give of their extra time to make those they love succeed. We sacrifice for those we love, sometimes putting our own dreams aside, but we do it with a loving heart because that's what women do. When you give women the resources, you know that everyone else will benefit. While often overloaded and not mentioned, I know that successful women often have a caring, loving, supportive husband or partner that shares in leading the family and home. I also know that it takes a village to raise our children, and the diversity we all bring to today helps shape who they become. I know that we need to continue to shed light on and celebrate the hard work and heavy lifting that our mothers, grandmothers, and great-grandmothers did to pave the way for our freedoms and choices available to women today. I know that in Arkansas we face significant challenges related to education, economic development, and health. Each can stand alone as worthy of our singular focus, but to make even incremental progress, we must remember that these are all deeply entwined. The focus on the education and economic lives of women and girls is relevant because improvement in their lives has the potential for exponential returns to the state of Arkansas in the form of children's educational and economic success as adults. These are some of the things that the women in Arkansas and I know. We know that it's just scratching the surface. There's a lot more to learn. There is much to do to improve the status of women in Arkansas. It's going to take all of us to do it. It is relevant work. One of the things that I most strongly believe is that I know that this focus and this looking at what women need is not a woman thing. This is a community thing. If we really, truly support women, we can strengthen Arkansas. Thank you. Thank you.
So very quickly, so what kind of programs do we have in Arkansas right now that are providing opportunities to develop better futures for women in the state?
Big question. Well, there are a lot of programs that individual corporations have within their own systems to help train and lift people up within the buildings, within their corporations. There are a lot of, I think I'm punching a button. There are a lot of nonprofit service providers that have individual workforce development, skill training type jobs. There are a lot of scholarships that are focused mainly on single families. Now that goes for
Single parent scholarship fund.
Single parent scholarship fund, which does men and women. They have, I think, about 88% of their clientele are women. There are a lot of social service programs, even within the colleges and university systems, that are being put in place. There's a federal program called Career Pathways Initiative, which helps with those wraparound services that keep the women and men in their educational process. So there are a lot out there. They're just scattered.
So from a man to a woman, what kind of things can we do as men to be better men to better serve women in the state?
That's a very good question. I think and I'm no expert in this, I think for any relationship and any, whether we want to look at gender or race or anything, we all need to get down to basic respect of each other as human beings and recognize that things like talent and ambition and drive don't have gender.
Boundaries.
And so it's, how would you treat your friend, and that would be the same thing that you would offer to a woman. I think it all boils down to mutual respect, understanding that we all have abilities and honor those abilities.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Lynette.
Thank you.